any of you guys remember the ice bucket challenge?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my family, I have 3 boys and my husband. We went outside to do the ice bucket challenge, and I was holding my baby. He was 1 at the time. And I went to take a step off my porch, and I somehow tripped myself up, and I missed all the steps. It was maybe not even 3 feet high, and we fell. And it happened so fast, but in my head it felt super slow, and all I could think was I didn't want Gage to take the brunt of the fall, and so I kind of maneuvered him to my left and fell all on my right leg, and my leg bent completely backwards in half at my knee. Yeah, it was pretty painful. So the only thing I could think about was Gage at the second, and he was crying, and found out that he just had a cut on his lips, that he was okay, and then I realized what had just happened to my leg, and the pain just hit me, and it was the worst physical pain I've ever felt in my life. So I was screaming, and my husband called for the ambulance, and there were some neighbors that came over, and once I got to the hospital, they thought that my knee was dislocated, and they told me they were going to put it back into place. And I don't remember anything after that. I did wake up on the helicopter for a split second, but
So
you have a question?
You snapped your artery.
Yep. Yeah, so what we found out later was that my femoral artery, which runs kind of behind your knee, it's one of your main arteries, had been severed. So I was losing a lot of blood, and there was a ton of complications that came with it. And when I woke up, it was the next day, because I actually was on life support. I lost a lot of blood, and pretty lucky to be alive, actually. So when I woke up the next day, I was a little confused. I had a tube down my throat. I couldn't talk. It was pretty scary, but the doctors came in, and they had explained everything that happened to me. And one of the things that happened was my leg had so much pressure built up that the calf of my leg was, they had to basically cut both sides open all the way up. And so I also had a metal bar on my knee, and it was screwed into my thigh and then down at the bottom so that I couldn't move my knee because it was damaged so badly. But I actually ended up in the hospital for 5 weeks with my leg cut open like that. And my muscles didn't get enough oxygen before I had the surgery, and so my muscles started dying. And I had 3 more surgeries. They're called debridement surgeries, and they go in and they wash out all the tissue and they cut out the dead muscle. And I ended up having 3 of those. And after the 3rd one, I had lost over 80% of my large muscle in my calf, and my foot had dropped, so I couldn't move my leg. I couldn't even really feel it, except for the pain, the nerve pain. But we decided to talk about amputation, and because of the extensive damage in my knee, we had to go above. So my leg is actually cut about middle of my thigh. So it was not too long of a surgery. It was pretty quick, actually, compared to everything else I went through for 5 weeks. And I think I spent another 2 weeks in the hospital, a lot of rehab. It's been 4 years, and I still do some rehab, and probably go to some kind of doctor at least once a week. So there's a lot, but Addie was talking about.
Okay, she's going to show her leg, so if you are.
I'll walk around so you guys can see.
Yeah.
But Addie was talking about how you save some of the fat and tissue, and they basically fold that down, and then they staple up your leg, and that's where your scar is. But that fat actually helps when I slip my leg into my socket here, this part. That helps kind of a cushion on your femur bone or whatever's left. So that's why that's important. And sometimes they don't always get that right, and they have to go back in and do the surgery again. So it's important.
And the reason you didn't bleed out was because your kneecap pinched the artery shut?
I'm not 100% sure, but luckily I didn't break any bones, and so there wasn't any tear to my skin at the time. And so even though I was bleeding internally, and I read, I don't know, I'm not a nurse or a doctor, but I read that if you sever the femoral artery, you can die in like 3 minutes. So luckily I didn't have any cuts or any broken bones or anything to bleed out, but yeah, so getting a prosthetic is, I thought that I was just gonna get a new leg and just be on my way, but it's a lot harder. It was way harder than I expected. You go in, has anybody broke a bone before? No. Have you ever been casted? Have a cast on? Yeah. Well, it's kind of the same thing. I go in and they cast my leg, what's left of my leg, and then they get a good mold of it, and then what they do from that is they make a plastic, what they call it a socket, and my leg slips into that. And I actually wear like a gel, it's called a liner, pull that up on my leg, slip my leg down in. This is a suction socket, so what that means is it stays on my leg just by suctioning to it. So there's, right now it's on really tight, but if I'm walking around or if I sit down, sometimes I lose a little air. I just stand up, there's a button here, push it, and it pulls all the air out, so it stays tight to my leg. So, but there's different ways of attaching it to your leg. You have a question?
How easy is it to walk upstairs?
The stairs are really hard, and I've had to learn a little patience through this process, but I'm not a very patient person, so stairs aggravate me. Stairs kind of scare me because that's how I lost my leg, was falling down the stairs, but it takes more time than anything. I think that's the most aggravating part. So it's not super hard, it just is exhausting. As an above the knee amputee, some people lose their leg below the knee and they still have a working knee, which helps a lot. But when you have a mechanical knee like I do, then you use about 65% more energy to walk than a regular, like someone with two good legs. So I get hot, I get exhausted super easy, but it's challenging, but it's not impossible, and I found actually that there's a lot of things that I wasn't sure that I'd be able to do again, and I'm getting there. I'm starting to do a lot of things I used to do in my old life. So, but the prosthetic, do you guys want to guess how much one of these legs cost?
1 to 5,000.
About 5,000? What do you think?
4,000.
$67,000. Yeah, and you know how often I have to get one? Every 3 to 5 years. This is already my second one, and so it's expensive. Wait, I think a question.
How do you have to change them?
Change the legs. So they only last. This particular one, I'm lucky enough to have. It's computerized, and the parts and stuff are only like computers and other technology. They're only built to last so long. So some people, hopefully, I can get them to last a little longer than 5 years and stretch it out, but they just wear out. So
Why are they so expensive?
medicine. Everything in the medical field is just super high, and this one is computerized, and while that sounds really cool, it pretty much only recognizes my gait pattern. So when I'm walking, after a while, it kind of picks up on how I'm walking, and if it thinks I'm about to stumble or fall, it gives me just a split second to catch myself. So that's pretty cool. But other than that, the computerized part isn't really, it knows when I'm standing, so it locks at the knee, which my first one didn't do that. So I couldn't stand very long before, for like the first 3 years. I would just get exhausted standing, but now I can stand and I can talk, and it's been a life changer this last year with this new leg that I've got. So, question?
What is that made of? That bar is made out of?
The bar, like here,
And like inside of that plastic.
inside of here. Yeah. That's probably just there's some plastic. This is made out of carbon fiber, steel, metal. My guy who made this leg for me was actually from South Africa, and he was one of the very first